Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to Lesson 10. What is going on in Lesson 10? Well, you go to a movie premiere and it's a little bit boring. So you fall asleep during the movie. And then you go talk to the actor in the movie after the show and ask him for his autograph. And he says, "Ooh, what did you think of the film?" "Ooh, uh-oh. Well, you slept through the movie, so you don't really know what happened." So this is kind of an awkward situation. When you're in this awkward situation, what do you say? Well, this time you were feeling positive, feeling nice, and so you said something very nice to the actor. And then things went forward, and you're feeling good, you have good vibes, you have good energy, and you're trying to make a movie with your friend Bob. So you and Bob share some ideas and try to figure out, what do you want to do together? Do you want to make a horror movie, an action movie, a romance, a sci-fi movie? So in this lesson, lesson 10, we're going to be talking about different parts of stories and different parts of movies and all kinds of things. So this time we talked about different genres. Now, do you remember, what is a genre? Well, a genre means a kind of story. So we talk about many different kinds of genres all the time. We're talking about books, movies, comics, whatever. So what genre do you like? I like science fiction. I think it's cool to see people go into space and explore what might really happen someday far in the future. What about you? Do you like fantasy, where people use magic to fight against dragons? I like a little bit of that. I really liked a series called The Witcher. You should check that out if you haven't seen it. It's on Netflix. Or do you like historical stories about the past? Knights in shining armor, people fighting with each other, or about love? So let me know what kind of genres you like. Or maybe you like action, you like horror. I don't know. I want to hear from you guys. So we took a look at a dialogue talking about genres and trying to check movie making off of your bucket list. Now, do you remember what a bucket list is? A bucket list is a list of things you want to do before you kick the bucket. Kick the bucket means when you say goodbye to this world. Kick the bucket means to pass away, to die. But we say it in kind of a light way. If you're talking about yourself, you'd say, "Oh, when I'm an old man, I'm going to kick the bucket." And so we call it the bucket list. What do you want to do? What is on your list before you kick the bucket? Is there anything you really want to do? Do you have a bucket list? Maybe, I really want to go to Brazil someday. I really want to go to France someday. Those might be things on your bucket list. Or maybe, I want to write a book someday. I want to write a song someday. So I want to hear about your bucket lists too. So in this dialogue, we talked about getting filmmaking off of your bucket list and talking about the genres to figure out what to do with Bob. And in our future dialogues, we'll talk about other parts of stories, talk about the setting, where the story happens, talk about characters and the people in your stories, and a few other ideas like that. Okay? So let's get started with our homework from this week. We have 4 parts as usual, and our first part is Lesson 10, Conversation 1, Part 2, which is about comparing things. So more expensive than that, colder than that, stuff like that. And then in Part 3, we took a look at not as something as, or not so something as, or not any blah, blah, blah. And that would mean that it's actually the same. So we used comparison, more expensive, but not as expensive would mean the same. And then we also learned about less and not as. Not as expensive would mean it's less expensive. Okay? So we learned these ideas. More, and not as, or less. Okay? And so these are all different ways to compare anything. So let's take a look at Lesson 10, Conversation 1, Part 2, which is we're comparing things. Okay? And so our first sentence is寒流来了，晚上开始变得比较冷。So, right now, today was not so bad, right? But a few days ago, it got pretty cold. So you could say, the cold weather is here. It's getting colder at night. Okay? The cold weather is here. It's getting colder at night. Or you could say, winter is coming. It started to get colder at night. Okay? So, the cold weather is here is a very standard, straightforward way to explain this. So, hanliu in Chinese is kind of like the cold current. And I think a few of you wrote that, but it's not a very common phrase in English. We would use other phrases. You could just say cold weather. So the cold weather is here. And because you expect it, we know what it is, you can use the. The cold weather is here. So I'm not very, the cold current is not a very common phrase. So this is one of those things where a Chinese phrase, changing it into English is not really something people say very often. So we just have to change it around. So cold weather is good enough. Or you could use the word winter. Winter is coming, or winter is here. Maybe you know the phrase winter is coming from a famous book series and TV show called Game of Thrones. They always say, winter is coming. Oh, sounds scary. So I saw some people use cold current and cold wave, but these are not very common phrases day-to-day English. Usually you just say cold weather. But if you want to talk about what they might say on the news, the people on the news might use the phrase cold front. A cold front is like a wall of cold air. And that's probably closer to hanliu. So cold front. So a cold front is coming. But that sounds pretty formal. People wouldn't say it to each other. I wouldn't say that to my family. But on the news, the weatherman would say, oh, a cold front is coming. And that means like a wall of cold air. If you see the map, you'd see that blue line that's moving towards something. That's called the cold front. Okay? Then there are two other phrases you could use to talk about hanliu. You could say a cold spell or a cold snap. So a cold spell means a short time of cold weather. Okay? So cold spell. So a cold spell is here. That means it gets really cold for maybe a few days. It's a short-term cold weather. Okay? Or a cold snap is another way to say that. Cold snap. Think about snap. That sounds really fast, right? So cold snap is when the weather changes really quickly. Maybe in one day, it goes from hot to cold. You could say, wow, there was a cold snap. It went from 25 to 0 in one day. Wow, cold snap, okay? So, but if you want to keep it simple, just say, the cold weather is here. So that's what's happening here in Taipei. It's pretty cold. Maybe if you're down south, it might be a little nicer. So the cold weather is here. It's getting colder at night. Or winter is coming. It started to get colder at night. So here I have my verbs in two different ways. It's getting colder. So it is getting colder. And I use continuous to mean it continues. It's getting colder and colder, which we'll talk about in later lessons. So it's getting colder and colder, meaning it's continuing to get cold. It's getting colder at night. Okay? I also said it's started to get colder at night. So if I'm focusing on it's the beginning, here it's means it has. It has started to get colder at night. So maybe it's the beginning of the cold weather. Okay? So, and then we have our comparison word. Our comparing word is colder. Cold is one sound, one syllable, cold. So what do we add? We add ER. It's getting colder. And colder than what? Colder than before. But you don't have to have then blah, blah, blah. Okay? I also saw someone use the word chilly. It's getting more chilly, or it started to get more chilly. That's good too. Chilly is similar to cold. Okay? For me, I think chilly is here, cold is even colder. Okay? Chilly might be 8 degrees, cold might be 2 degrees. Okay? Just a feeling of those words. Okay, next up is 你的外套看起来比我的保暖很多. So your coat looks a lot warmer than mine. And so everybody did a really good job with this one. No big issues. Your coat looks a lot warmer than mine. So I'm talking about your coat and mine. Mine is short for my coat, right? So your coat looks a lot warmer than mine. Our comparing word is warmer. Your coat is warmer than mine. But if we want to make it a big difference, we can say a lot warmer, okay? And you could also say much warmer or far warmer, something like that. But a very safe one to use, you can use all the time, is a lot. People use a lot all the time, okay? And one other thing is you should say that your coat looks a lot warmer than mine. So I saw somebody write, your coat looks like a lot warmer than mine. But we don't want that word like, because if you use looks like, that means when you look at that, you think of another thing. You could say, oh, your coat looks like my coat. That would mean they look the same. But if we're comparing them, we don't want that word like. The word like there would mean it's the same as, okay? And then also one thing to be careful about, when we're comparing, we use THAN, then. Don't use THEN, that's for time, okay? So THAN is for comparing, THEN is for time, okay? Next up we have 早上起床变得更加痛苦. Oh, you're wrapped up in your blanket and you wake up, oh, I don't want to go to work. So you go back to sleep. So waking up in the morning has gotten way more difficult. Okay. Waking up in the morning has gotten way more difficult. Or you could say getting up in the morning has gotten way more difficult. Both are okay. Waking up and getting up, basically the same. Okay? So you can use this, put this together, waking up in the morning, waking up in the morning. And the in the morning is describing when you wake up. I did see one of you write, in the morning, comma, getting up has gotten more difficult. That's fine, that's okay. You can move that to the beginning. But you can put it as one thing together. Getting up in the morning together. You don't need a comma there. Okay? And waking up in the morning has gotten way more difficult. So I use the present perfect tense, has gotten, because it started before and continued till now. And it's happened recently, right? It has gotten way more difficult. And you could also use the word become. It has become more difficult. I did see someone use present simple tense. It becomes more difficult. That doesn't really work super well. You don't want to use present simple very often. That's for habits or something that's true all the time. But it's happening recently, so it's better to use present perfect. It has become more difficult. I also saw someone use continuous. It's becoming more difficult. That's okay. That would mean now and then continuing into the future. Sure, it's becoming more difficult. But that would mean it's like right now and going forward. If it started before, you would want to use present perfect, okay? So I like using present perfect here. And then I say it has gotten way more difficult. Way means a big, big difference, and more difficult means it's not easy to get out of bed. I really don't like it. So with waking up in the morning, in English, we'd often use the word difficult. Oh, it's really difficult to get up in the morning. Oh, it's really hard to get up in the morning. Okay? You can use the word painful. So some of you use painful. So waking up in the morning has gotten way more painful. And that's okay, but it sounds pretty extreme. But yes, it works here. So much more painful, a lot more painful. But I would probably use difficult. It fits. I think that's a little more common, okay? I did see someone use the word suffering here. Way more suffering. That doesn't really work. The word suffering is a noun. It's a thing, like an idea. So you're not describing waking up as being more suffering. That sounds too intense. Suffering is like when horrible things happen and you're really, really having a bad time. Okay. So waking up in the morning has gotten way more difficult, or getting up in the morning has gotten way more painful. And of course, you could say way more, or a lot more, or much more, whatever. They're all similar, different degrees, right? Okay. And then our next sentence is,我比之前还要常迟到，老板看我的眼神也越来越严厉。So, I would say this as, I'm late for work more often than before. The looks I'm getting from my boss are getting sterner and sterner. Okay, so this is something that we will practice in our next dialogue, I believe. I think it's the next one. Let me double check. Yeah, in our next dialogue, we will talk about like 越来越, which is repeating these comparative words. So sterner and sterner. That means it continues on and gets more and more and more and more, okay? So let's look at the first part. I'm late for work more often than before, okay? So I am late for work. So when you get to work late, we'd say you're late for work. Or you could say, I get to work late, or I get to the office late, more often than before. That would be okay too. Or I get to work more often than before. So we're talking about arriving at work. So using get is the right verb here. I get to work late, or I am late for work, something like that. I did see someone use I go to work late. So we want to focus on arriving at work, so it's better to use the word get. I get to work late. Go to work sounds like maybe you leave your house late. But that's not the important part. The important part is when you arrive there, when you get there. Okay? So I'm late for work more often than before. So we use more often and compare it to before. So before I was late this much, but now I'm late this much, this often. Okay? So I'm late for work more often than before. The next part was kind of tricky. The looks I'm getting from my boss are getting sterner and sterner. So when someone looks at you and they're not really happy, we use the word looks, meaning, or as a noun. That's a thing, an idea. This person is giving you looks. And usually that's a bad thing. So, ooh, he keeps giving me looks. So, the looks I'm getting from my boss. You get looks. Your boss looks at you and you get those looks. You receive them. He looks at you and it comes to you. Oh, so the looks I'm getting from my boss are getting sterner and sterner. Stern is a word we can use for someone's look, the look they give you. And they have a stern face or a stern look. And that means it doesn't have to be that they're mean, but they're kind of being strict. They're not very happy with you. They want you to follow the rules, that kind of thing. Okay? So sterner and sterner, more and more stern. So stern is usually the word we use to describe a look. You could use something like strict, but strict means like he wants you to follow rules and stuff like that. So that would be okay too. But stern fits with look the best. So sterner and sterner. It's getting up and up and up. Okay? Okay. So next up, let's move on to Lesson 10, Conversation 1, Part 3. And this is talking about using the word any, right? Well, not more, meaning the same, or not any more, meaning exactly the same. And then we could use any in a question to show that you don't know and you want some kind of answer. So, our first sentence is, 哆啦 A 梦有比皮卡丘高吗? You're wondering and you have no idea. And so, it's like, is Doraemon any taller than Pikachu? So maybe you think they might be the same. Is Doraemon any taller than Pikachu? Having the any in there means you really don't know. Okay? You're not sure. You think maybe they're the same. Okay? Now, when we're talking about people or characters or whatever, we use the word taller to describe how tall you are. So is Doraemon any taller than Pikachu? So I did see someone use the word higher, but when we're talking about your body, we don't use the word high. High means how far above the ground you are. Maybe you're high in a building. I'm on the 101st floor. It's very high. You could use high in another way, meaning someone was smoking marijuana or something. Don't do that. Okay? So we don't want to use high to talk about people. So we want to use taller. Is Doraemon any taller than Pikachu? There's one other thing that you have to be careful with. We have the word is at the beginning. So that's the verb to be. You don't need be anywhere else in your sentence. I saw someone write, is Doraemon be any taller? You don't need the word be there. So we have is already. Is Doraemon any taller than Pikachu? If you change this to a sentence, you would just switch Doraemon and is. Doraemon is any taller than Pikachu. And maybe it is. Okay? So you don't need an extra word be. Okay? I have a question. 请问一二最后一个句子可以用完成式吗? You mean like I have been late for work more often than before? Or I have been getting looks from my boss? Yeah, that's totally fine. So you can use a perfect tense for those sentences, and that's totally fine. Because if you're talking about recently, you can say what's been happening before now and coming up to now. So yeah, I've been late for work more often than before. The looks I've been getting from my boss are getting sterner and sterner. Those are okay. Okay, so your sentence is, I get to the office late more often than before. So you need the word the in there. This is present simple tense, meaning it happens again and again. That works fine because it's happening again and again. It's more often, right? The way my boss looks at me is getting more severely. You don't want the ly. Ly makes it an adverb, so we just want severe. The way my boss looks at me is getting more severe. So they look at you. And yeah, that's okay. Severe, I think it would be better if you change that to the word stern, like I said, or intense. You could use the word intense. Severe doesn't really fit that super well, but that's great. Thank you. Just a couple little things. Okay, so let's see. Where are we? We're on sentence number 2 about your new job. So, 我以为换了工作会比较不忙， 结果也没有比之前早下班啊。Oh, too sad. You change your job, you get a new job, but it's still the same. I thought I would be less busy after changing jobs, but I'm not getting off work any earlier than before. So, too bad. I thought I would be less busy after changing jobs. So, this is what we're going to practice in part 4, right? Less busy. I thought I would be less busy. I was this busy. I thought I would be less busy. Okay? And so I thought I would be less busy after changing jobs. Jobs with an S, because you go from one job to a new job. So there are jobs, changing jobs. Okay? So a couple of you wrote changing the job, but we want jobs because there are two jobs that change one for the other. Okay? I saw someone say, I thought I would be less busy when I changed my job. We are focusing on after. So when means at that moment, but we're talking about after the change. So better use after instead of when. So I thought I would be less busy after changing jobs. Remember, thought in past tense means it didn't come true. But I'm not getting off work any earlier than before. Okay, so I used present continuous tense because it's happening now and continuing. I'm not getting off work any earlier than before. So finishing work, you would say getting off work, meaning you're leaving work for the day. Okay? I'm not getting off work any earlier than before. So not getting off work any earlier. So the not any means it's completely the same, or it's not any different, it's not any better, right? Maybe before you got home at 8 o'clock, now you're still getting home at 8 o'clock. Oh, too bad. So I'm not getting off work any earlier than before. Now, I also saw some of you use the simple tense. Use the simple tense. I don't get off work any earlier than before. And that's totally fine too. That's okay. It's just that's focusing on that it's happening again and again and again, right? So using continuous, like I did, I'm not getting off work, means it's happening and continuing to happen. And then using I don't get off work any earlier means it happens every day, repeated. So both are basically the same here. And they're both okay. And then I also saw someone say, I'm getting off work no earlier than before. And that's okay too, right? We learned that you could say not earlier or no earlier. Both are okay. No earlier sounds a little bit more formal, but totally works here. Okay? Next up is 周末时出门一点也没有比待在家好玩，到处都是人。So, going out on weekends isn't any more fun than staying at home. There are people everywhere. So you don't like it being so crowded and so busy. So going out on weekends isn't any more fun than staying at home. So going out on weekends, we can put this as our subject. And this is one activity. It's an ing word we use as a noun, right? We learned that quite a while ago. Going out on weekends isn't any more fun than staying at home. That means that it's not more fun, so that means it's the same, okay? So going out on weekends. So going out means just leaving your house. It could mean going to a party or going for a walk, whatever, just leaving your house, okay? You could also use getting out on weekends, but I would use going out more often. So going out on weekends. If you use getting out, you'd probably say getting out of the house. Getting out of the house on weekends isn't any more fun than staying at home. So both are okay. And then isn't any more fun. Now, fun is a tricky word. So when we use a one-syllable word, usually we add ER. But we don't often use the word funner. Funner sounds strange. There's some weird history to the word fun. People think of it like it's a noun. We have fun. And so putting ER on fun makes it sound a little bit strange to native speakers. Sometimes you'll see it, but not very often. So with the word fun, usually we use more fun. Okay? So don't write funner. And then I also saw someone write funnier. Funnier is actually funny plus ER. That is okay, but it doesn't fit this situation. So more fun means it makes you happy. Funnier means it makes you laugh more. So funny means for a joke. Fun means for something you do. Okay? So be careful about that. If it's just the word fun, meaning you like that thing, use more fun. Okay? It isn't any more fun than staying at home. And staying at home means you rest at home, watch a movie, whatever. You could also say hanging out at home, okay? Or resting at home, whatever, okay? So isn't any more fun means they're the same. You could also say is no more fun than blah, 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 okay? So going out on weekends is no more fun than staying at home. I saw someone use doesn't be any more fun, but we don't need the word do here. We don't need does. When we have a be verb, you don't need to add does. You just take that be, make it is, and then add not. Is not any more fun. Okay? I also saw someone write no any more fun. So going out is no any more fun. That doesn't really work. So when we change it to no, it should not have the word any. So we'd say it's not any more fun, or you could say it's no more fun. But don't put no and any together, okay? So be careful of that. Let's see. Next up, we have Lesson 10, Conversation 1, Part 4. Time flies, right? So there are not a ton of notes here. People did pretty well with these sentences. So our lesson lesson 10 conversation 1 part 4 is about less or not as. That means it's a smaller amount, right? Yesterday was cold, today was less cold or not as cold, right? It means a smaller amount. And like we said before, less is usually used with longer words that are like 2 or more syllables. And then if it's 1 syllable, we usually use not as. Was not as cold as yesterday. Okay? So, 请你不要迟到。迟到的话，会议会没办法那么顺利进行。So, let's see. Remember, we want to use less or not as. Okay? So please don't be late. If you're late, the meeting will go less smoothly. So less smoothly. So we can talk about a meeting going smoothly or going not so smoothly. Okay? So if you're late, the meeting will go less smoothly. What are we comparing to? Well, if you're on time. If you get there on time at the right time, then the meeting will go smoothly. It will be easy. But if you're late, the meeting will go less smoothly. So this is what we want, and it's less smoothly. Okay? You could also say, if you're late, the meeting will not go as smoothly. Okay? So the same thing. Smoothly and not as smoothly. Okay? So please don't be late. If you're late, blah, 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 blah. So first up, I used if you're late, if you are late. If this is true, in the future. So you can use the present tense of the verb in the if part if you are late. When we're talking about the future and what I think might actually happen, I think this might become true, you can use present tense, okay? A few of you use were. If you were late, so if you were late, the meeting would go less smoothly. So that's if it's imaginary. And if it's completely in your mind and maybe there's not a big chance of it happening. So you could write it that way. If you were late, the meeting would go less smoothly. But by doing that, I'm saying that this is probably not going to happen. So if you think it might happen, you can use the present tense. So if you're late or if you are late, the meeting will go less smoothly. Or you can imagine it and say, I don't think this is going to happen. If you were late, the meeting would go less smoothly. Okay? So both are okay, but the meaning is slightly different. Okay? I would prefer using the present tense if you are late. Okay? I also saw somebody take this if part and squish it down, which is good. Please don't be late. If so, the meeting will go less smoothly. So yeah, you could use that to shorten your if phrase. Okay? And then I used will go less smoothly, and what that means is less smoothly than if you were on time. Or the meeting will not go as smoothly. So again, it's not as smoothly, so that means it's less. Okay? So some of you didn't use less or not as, and that's okay. But so you wrote things like, if you're late, the meeting can't go well, and that's okay. Or the meeting can't go smoothly. So those would be okay. But if we want to use less or not as, write it the way I did. But as usual, it's up to you. Many, many choices in these sentences. Okay, next up is 今年百货公司周年庆没有像去年一样热闹. So this year, the department store's annual sale wasn't as busy as last year. Or you could also say it wasn't as crowded as last year. Okay, so start off with this year because we're talking about the sale this year. It's an annual sale, so that means it happens every year. Okay, annual is a word that describes anything that happens again and again every year. Okay, what's something that's annual? Well, maybe an annual sale. They're annual flowers that come out every year. What else is annual? You get an annual bonus at work, or I hope you do. I don't, but I hope you get an annual bonus. Okay? So this year, the department store's annual sale wasn't as busy as last year. So start with this year because that's the focus, that's important. The department store's annual sale. So the department store has an annual sale, so you can use the possessive. The department store's annual sale wasn't as busy as last year. Okay, so annual sale means it's every year. Some of you used anniversary sale. That's okay because it's kind of like the store's birthday, but we don't hear that very often in America. You'd probably hear annual sale or something. But another common thing is a year-end sale. So that would be at the end of the year, like around the end of December. But a common sale in America is the year-end sale. Okay? So you could use any of these in your sentence. Okay? But also remember, it's an annual sale. You need the word sale in here. Annual or anniversary is describing the sale. Okay? Let's see. The department store's annual sale this year wasn't as busy as last year. So wasn't as busy as last year. So we're comparing the things. If we use as busy as, it would mean the same. not as busy as means it's less, right? Okay? And we can use the word busy, meaning there are many people, and many people are moving around, and wow, everyone's busy. So that would be my first choice. You could also use the word crowded. Crowded means there's lots of people squished together. That sounds a little bit negative, actually, meaning there are too many people. I also saw two other words. These words they fit. So for now, you could say bustling or lively. So bustling or lively just means there are many people moving around. There's a lot of energy, a lot of life, lots of people moving around. But bustling and lively are not very common words. It would be more common to use busy or crowded, okay? Next up is 猫没有像狗一样热情，但它们有独特的魅力。Cats are not as friendly as dogs, but they have special charm. So dogs are here with how friendly they are. Super friendly. Cats are not as friendly as dogs. So take this comparison and say, no, they're not. So it's less, okay? You could also say cats are not so friendly as dogs. But in American English, we use not as more often than not so, okay? So both are okay. Not so friendly as dogs. Not as friendly as dogs, okay? And then the second part, well, the first part, I think everybody got it. It was using our grammar pattern, and everyone did a great job. The second part, but they have special charm. This one was a little bit tricky, and you could say it a few different ways. So they have special charm, meaning I use the word special because it's interesting, it's special, it's a little bit different than other animals. You could also say they have unique charm. So unique is even more than special. And unique means I didn't use unique because unique is very strong. Unique means that no one else, nothing else has this kind of charm. And so, yeah, if that's what you think, if you think cats have a charm that nothing else is like, you could use unique. It's completely different. But if you say it's special, but maybe not completely unique, you could say special charm. So unique charm, special charm. And so I would use charm with as an uncountable noun. There's no S on charm. Charm is describing the personality of these cats. They have charm. For charm, if there's no S, it means someone's energy and their personality. A charm with an S, like for charms, that sounds like a little thing that goes on a necklace or on a bracelet. So you might have a bracelet with a charm hanging off of it. So charms with an S means something a little bit different, okay? When we talk about someone's personality, you could use an S sometimes, but usually no S, okay? So they have special charm or they have unique charm, okay? I also saw someone use charisma. So unique charisma. Now, charm and charisma are very similar, but charisma is usually just used for people. Charm can be used for anything, like a place has charm, an animal has charm, a person has charm. But charisma means someone gets you to like them and agree with them, and you want to listen to that person talk. So charisma is usually just used for people, and it has to do with the way they talk. They make you want to listen, okay? So using, in this sentence about cats, it's better to use the word charm, okay? So charisma and charm, that's kind of a tricky difference, okay? Next up. So this is maybe if somebody's not being nice to you and they say, oh, you're too poor, you don't have enough money. You could say this. 我没有像你一样那么有钱， 但你比我不幸福. Wow. So you're not very happy with that person and you say this. So you could say, I'm not as rich as you, but you're less happy than me. Okay? You could always say, I'm happier than you, but you're saying you're less happy than me. And so both would be okay. I'm not as rich as you, but you're less happy than me. Okay. And I think most of you got this really well. And I'm not as rich as you is just a shortened way to say I'm not as rich as you are. So both are okay. You can have the verb are there or take it away. I'm not as rich as you are. I'm not as rich as you. Same thing. And then the second part, but you're less happy than me. You could also say you're not as happy as me. So the same and you're less, okay? And just don't forget, you need that word not. So I saw somebody drop the word not and say, I'm as rich as you. That means we're the same, but we need the word not to show that there's a difference. I'm not as rich as you, but you're less happy than me. Happiness is more important than being rich, right? If you could be both, that's great. But if you can't be rich, that's okay if you're happy. So hopefully all of you can find some joy in life and do some fun stuff, even if it doesn't make you money. Okay. Now, next up is Lesson 10, Conversation 1, Part 5. This is our dialogue where you and Bob are trying to check filmmaking off of your bucket list. You want to do it before you die, and you and Bob are trying to figure out, what genre of movie should we make? Genre is a tricky word. It looks like genre, right? But it's genre. It comes from French, and we kind of keep the sound of the word, genre. Now, remember, genre is used for stories. So genre is talking about this movie is a fantasy movie. That book is a science fiction book. This TV show is a romance TV show. It's used to talk about stories, okay? But we don't want to use this for other things. Don't use this to talk about restaurants. You'd say, what kind of restaurant is that, or what style? You would not say the genre of restaurant. That doesn't work. Genre is for stories. So keep that in mind, okay? So our first sentence is, 我对食物充满热情，所以决定开一间自己的餐厅. Sounds pretty fun. I'm passionate about food, so I've decided to open a restaurant of my own. So the first part is, I'm passionate about food. So passionate is a word meaning you have strong feelings about it. It makes you excited. It makes you feel something. Wow, I get excited about food. I'm passionate about food. Okay? You could also keep this simple and say something like, I love food. I love food, so both are okay. I'm passionate about food. So usually when we use the word passionate, we use about to talk about the thing. I'm passionate about food. I'm passionate about movies. I'm passionate about my work. Maybe, I hope you are. Okay? I'm passionate about food. So I've decided to open a restaurant of my own. So I've decided. This is I have decided. This is present perfect. And the reason I do that is because I'm telling you some news. This is a decision I made recently, and I'm telling you it's a new thing to tell you. So I have decided. I've decided. Okay? And it suggests maybe it happened recently. And when we talk about restaurants, I've decided to open a restaurant. Okay? So when we have a business or restaurant, we often use the word open. I want to open a shop. I want to open a restaurant. I want to open a business. Okay? So you can use open a restaurant of my own. And then of my own is a way to Say, hey, there are many restaurants out there, but I want one too. Okay? I've decided to open a restaurant of my own. I saw someone use start a restaurant, and that's okay. I've decided to start a restaurant of my own. But for restaurants, we usually use the word open. Okay? I also saw people use the word have a restaurant. Have doesn't work as well. Have just means you already have it. You can't decide to have a restaurant. You have to decide to open it or decide to buy a restaurant. To have it means it's yours. We are talking about the process of getting a restaurant. So you don't want to use have. You don't already have it. You want to open it or start it. Or maybe if you have a lot of money, you want to buy a restaurant. Okay? So I've decided to open a restaurant of my own. I've decided to start a restaurant of my own. Something like that. Next up is 我会试着打造比别家更多质感和特色的餐厅. So I'm going to make the restaurant higher quality and more interesting than others. So we're comparing to others, meaning other restaurants. Okay? I'm going to make the restaurant higher quality and more interesting than others. Okay, so we're talking about our future plans, so you can use I am going to, right? We're talking about what you want to do in the future. I'm going to make the restaurant higher quality and more interesting than the others. So make the restaurant means design it or plan it in this way. I'm going to make it this way. So we want to use make, and that's like talking about the planning and maybe everything inside. I saw someone use the word build, but build would mean talking about the actual building. Building. So I'm going to build the restaurant would be meaning the actual place it is. But if we're talking about inside, like the food and the decoration, you don't want to use build. We could use make, okay? So I'm going to make the restaurant higher quality and more interesting than others. So now we have our comparative words. Higher quality. So 质感, you can think of it as high quality. So I saw someone use more high quality. That's okay. But more high quality, you can just put that more on the word high and say higher quality. High quality, if you make it comparative, you can say higher quality. Maybe this sandwich is higher quality than that sandwich. One is nicer than the other, okay? The opposite would be lower quality. Oh, this thing is lower quality than that thing. Oh, I have a old phone and a new phone. My old phone is lower quality, okay? So I'm going to make the restaurant higher quality and more interesting than others. So I just kept it simple and said more interesting. So 更多特色. It doesn't really translate directly to English in a great way. So a few of you said more featured or with more specialties. That's okay, but it doesn't really fit perfectly. So 特色. In English, 特色 is like special characteristics. But that's really wordy, and we don't use that very often. So if it has 特色, I would just say it's interesting, okay? So sometimes it's better to just keep it simple. That word doesn't have a very good translation into English. So you could say it has more features, but you want to describe that, more interesting features. Or more specialties? What do you mean? More specialty foods. You could say something like that, okay? But keep it simple. I would say more interesting, okay? Oh, one more thing. I saw with higher quality and more specialties. Make the restaurant with higher quality. So you don't want the word with in there. So make the restaurant higher quality because we're describing the restaurant. with means it's a thing that it has, but higher quality is just a description of the restaurant. So you don't need the word with. Okay? Okay. And then next up is 我会融合中式、印度和法式风格. So this is using a phrase that was in our dialogue. Some of you caught it. If you didn't, that's okay. There are other ways to say it. So from our dialogue, we learned, I'll blend Chinese, Indian, and French styles together. So I'll blend blah, blah, blah together is one way to say you're going to take these things and mix them together. Okay? So you could also use the word mix. I'll mix Chinese, Indian, and French styles together. Okay? This is your plan, so you can say I will. I will blend these things. I'll blend. I saw someone say, I would try to mix. Would means you're imagining it, meaning you don't think it'll happen. You could use will, I will try to mix. But if you use the word try like that, it sounds like you are not sure you're going to be able to do it. So leave out try. So I'll blend Chinese, Indian, and French styles together. So, like I said before, styles is what we want to use. What style of food? It's these three styles. So we don't want to use the word genre here because genre is used for stories, not about food. Okay? So the way I wrote it was Chinese, Indian, and French styles. I saw one of you write Chinese style, Indian style, and French style. That's totally fine. But one way to simplify your sentence, make it easier to write, is instead of writing style 3 times, Chinese style, Indian style, French style, you can pull all those styles to the end and say Chinese, Indian, and French styles. Okay? So take those styles and make them into one word. So sometimes in English, if you're repeating words, you can just pull that word out and put it only one time. Okay? So, oh, well, it's just like in Chinese. You don't need to say 中式风格、印度风格和法式风格. You don't need to repeat the word 风格. Just take it all out and put it at the end. Okay? So, next up, last but not least is 我想要带给大家幸福，少一点商业化和多一点人情味. So this one was actually pretty tricky, especially because of the word 人情味. This is a word that people in Taiwan love to say, especially describing Taiwan and people in Taiwan. But we don't really have this word in English, so it's kind of tricky. So this sentence, I would write it as, I want to bring people joy, which means being less businesslike and more friendly. Okay, keep it simple a little bit, right? I want to bring people joy. So in our dialogue, we have the phrase bring people joy. You could also use the word happiness. I want to bring people happiness. Joy and happiness, basically the same. I don't know the difference. You shouldn't have to know the difference. Joy and happiness. I want to bring people joy. I want to bring people happiness. And then I used a which phrase to describe this whole idea. I want to bring people joy, which, and we describe that whole sentence, which means being less businesslike and more friendly. Okay, so what does it mean? It means being less businesslike. So, 商业化. A few of you used the word commercialization or commercialized. Those are very formal words talking about like an area of a city. Like you could say, oh, Xinyi district is very commercialized. And so it sounds very formal. Sounds like you understand the market, you understand business a lot. But it's a little bit too formal for this situation. Here we're talking about the way your restaurant welcomes people, right? And we're not talking about an area of the city that's very commercialized. we're talking about the way a restaurant deals with customers, which means being less business-like. So being business-like means it feels like a business. So if you go to that place and it feels like a business, it's not very comfortable, right? So you want to be less business-like, feel more at home, okay? So you could say something like a bit less commercialized or less business. You could keep it simple, or less commercial. Those are okay. But I would like to keep it simple and say less business-like. It doesn't feel like a business, okay? And then 多一点人情味. I kept it simple and said more friendly. So more friendly, maybe the staff is very nice, saying hello to people, smiling at people, making people feel good. Now, 人情味 doesn't have one word in English that matches exactly. What's close to it is humanity or humanistic, but that's way too high level. People don't use those words very much. Like, if you say that restaurant is very humanistic, it sounds way too weird. So don't say that. I saw on Google some people were saying human flavor. Do not say that. That is so weird. Or, oh wow, that restaurant, I want 多一点人情味. I want more human taste, more human flavor. Oh God, that sounds terrible. Don't say that. So keep it simple. Say more friendly or more warm. When we're talking about people being nice to each other, you could use the word warm, warmth, okay? Another way to say it, another word that's a little more formal is hospitality. We want to have more hospitality. Hospitality is a word that people use to talk about hotels and stuff like that, where they feel welcoming, they feel nice and kind, and they want you to feel good there. Feel like there's more hospitality, it's more welcoming, it's more friendly, it's warmer, there's warmth, stuff like that. Yeah, so those kinds of words. Humanity doesn't really work here. It sounds that sounds like something you would study in a book. But we're talking about people and their feelings. You don't use humanity in that way. And then I also saw someone use heartwarming. Heartwarming is talking about like something makes you feel good, but usually it's about a story that you hear. So you don't describe a person as heartwarming, you describe a story as heartwarming. It makes your heart feel warm. But if the people are nice to you, you could say those people are warm, they are friendly, they're welcoming, they're hospitable. Hospitable is a more formal word though, okay? So 人情味 is a tricky one, right? Okay, so you and Bob talk about your movie ideas and share some ideas. You want good vibes in your movie. Bob gives you some ideas, but you think, oh, those are not happy enough. Those aren't fun enough. And so you're trying to figure out what to do. Think outside the box. Everyone does these ideas. Let's do something different. And so you want to blend fantasy, science fiction, and romance together. That sounds like it could be fun, right? And so you and Bob think about your idea and go forward. In our next dialogue, dialogue 2, we will take a look at, again, we'll take a look at our awkward situation where the actor asks you what you thought about the movie. But this time you are not being very friendly, being very happy. And so you tell him, I hated it. It was so boring, blah, blah, blah. Not very nice things. And then you go back to meet Bob to talk about your movie idea, and you're not happy about this idea from today. And you change everything, and you have to figure out what to do. And what happens if you're feeling kind of negative and you give some bad, sad ideas to Bob? Okay, so next time we'll take a look at Lesson 10, Conversation 2, where we focus on setting. I believe it's setting, if I remember correctly. Okay, but you guys will find out. Hopefully you have some fun with talking about what to do with Bob, okay? So now that's about where we're going to wrap up here, but today we have a few people in the stream watching, and so if you would like to chat with me one-on-one, you can give me a call, and if you haven't yet, you should add Kyle Moai, send a message to Kyle Moai. Send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Give me a call. So thank you for joining, everybody. Let's wrap up here, and I'll see you next week. So have a good night, and good luck with Lesson 10, Conversation 2, where you learn about setting, okay? See you next time. Goodbye. Have a good weekend. Stay warm. Hopefully tomorrow is a nice day too, okay?